Yeah.
Mute. Okay, hello everyone. I don't want to waste anyone's time, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are recording this, so thank you for being here today. We are going to do milestones training, and this is for in case you need to go into the school to help administer Georgia milestones next week. Some people are already scheduled, and then some of you are on reserve in case a school has teachers who are out for whatever reason. So thank you for being here today. There should be a sign-in screen right now on as I'm sharing. It has a QR code and then a website address. It will also be at the end. So if you don't get logged in right now, it is not the end of the world, but please log in at some point today. I'm also going to email the same people who I emailed the invitation to begin with a copy of this meeting, a recording, and then the login again. So if you forgot to log in, make sure you log in later. Here's our contact information in case you don't know who we are. We're Research Accountability and Assessment. I'm the System Test Coordinator. We have Patrick Knopf, who's Director, and then Carrie Van Pelt, who is our Data Specialist. On the agenda today, the biggest things we're going to talk about is test security and then accommodations for students, because those are the two big things that if someone's going to have an issue with, those are probably the things they're going to have an issue with. So we're going to go over those today. Roles and responsibility. Everybody has a different role and responsibility with testing. Everyone from the student all the way up to the superintendent. Everybody has a different role with testing. If you would like to know exactly what those roles are, they can be found in the Student Assessment Handbook, which I can send you a copy of. It is on Godot's public website if you would like to read it word for word. But everybody has a different role and responsibility, and y'all in this realm are going to be the examiners. So that's the role I'm training you for, so you can actually give Georgia milestones to the students. Testing goes under Section 10 of your Georgia Code of Ethics. This will be included in what I send you in case you need more detailed, but testing can cause you to lose a certificate, and none of us want to lose our certificate. We've all worked way too hard, and we're going to follow the rules. We're going to follow the rules. No test score, no anything is worth somebody losing their certificate. So we are going to follow the rules, and we're going to be ethical. Prevention of test security breaches. The biggest thing, we want to make sure everything stays secure. We want to give all of our students the best opportunity to show their knowledge. They've worked really hard all year. Y'all have worked hard with the teachers. The teachers have worked hard with the students. And we just want to make sure everybody gets credit and everything goes smoothly. Reporting of test irregularities. If anything is out of the ordinary, you need to make sure you let the proper channels know. And the test coordinator was told to keep their principal informed. So while you were testing, when you were in a school, if anything happens, you need to make sure you communicate that with the test coordinator. The test coordinator will communicate that with the principal and then with my office. And then I will communicate it with my team and the people above me. There's a chain of commands. The biggest way to prevent anything from happening is to monitor students. When you are the test examiner, you don't just sit behind your desk and live your best life. You need to make sure you are actively monitoring the students. And I like to say there's a fine line between actively monitoring and harassing the students. Please do not harass the students. Make sure you are watching and paying attention, but you are not harassing them while they work. So walk around, monitor, be aware of what they're doing, be observant. If you see anything, report it. A lot of times proximity is the best thing you can do. Just walk over there and tap on Cheryl's desk, and then that gets her back to what she should be doing. So little things like that can help make the biggest difference in the world. Y'all are all professional educators, you know this, but little refresher. You also have to follow the TAM, which is the Test Administration Manual, word for word. Many of you have been in education longer than I have. You've given so many standardized tests, you feel like you can wing it. We're not winging anything. You read it word for word. Every student in the state of Georgia gets the exact same instructions read to them. word for word. So read it word for word. If you show up at a school and they do not give you a TAM, you do not test. Be like, Miss Dunn said I have to have a TAM to read from. That's your test administration manual, because we read it word for word. So if you don't have one, you don't test.
Lindy, can I interject real quick?
Yes.
So one of the things I want to say to you guys is that's just one part of it. If you find yourself in a testing situation where you are not comfortable with having everything you need to have, i.e., you don't know the students' accommodations, or you're not sure that you have the right tickets or anything like that, do not proceed until you confirm the information that you need to have. We do not want to put you in a situation where a mistake is made because you don't feel like you've been given all the tools you need. Okay, so the time to prevent a career-ending mistake is before you even make it. So don't go into a testing situation until you fully understand what it is that you're doing. Okay, meaning you've got the test administration manual with the script. It's the right script. You know that the students you're testing have accommodations, don't have accommodations. You know what those accommodations are, all of those things, okay? We want to keep you guys safe, so we're empowering you to say, I don't feel comfortable until I know these things have been done, okay? And if you have an issue, by all means, reach out to us, okay? Sorry, off my soapbox.
No, please. If you think someone is cheating, but you cannot prove it, let the student test. You can document, you can write a narrative, but unless you have 100% proof they're cheating, you do not stop them from testing. You allow them to complete testing, and then we will go from there afterwards. Biggest things, you can't really help student irregularities. Well, you can, but adult irregularities, please make sure you are following the rules. You give section 1 tickets before you give section 2 tickets. Ensure the student has the right accommodations, which you should have a checklist for. We'll go over that in just a minute, but try to make sure you are following the rules as the adult is the best way to make that happen. Minimize risk, ensure students know the directions before you start. Make sure when you're reading, hey, do you have any questions? Give them an opportunity to ask you questions. Don't get in, like, I've had some teachers who are just in such a hurry to get started, when if you would have waited and let them ask the question, it would have made testing go a lot smoother. So allow them to ask questions. If anything happens out of the ordinary, you should report it. I said that. You should get some sort of form. This is an example form on the screen right now. It might look different at your school. It's just if anything out of the ordinary happens, write it down. That doesn't mean anybody's in trouble or anybody has done anything wrong necessarily. Little Johnny throws up everywhere. You're going to write it down. Is Johnny in trouble? Are you in trouble? No, but you're going to write it down in case someone's like, hey, the testing environment was interrupted. Johnny threw up. Yep, we have it documented. Great, we're going to move on. Ashley's cell phone rang, which you've already taken up phones. That's in the script, but you're just going to write it down. We are not freaking out. I didn't put that in here right now, but I've had some people, like, somebody's cell phone goes off and then they're in a tizzy and then that's all anybody can think about. Remove it, write it down, move on with life. Don't let it be your phone that's ringing, please. So fill it out. You're going to turn this into your school test coordinator, whatever school you're at. Possible ethical violation. This screen right here is the one screen you're allowed to look at on the student computer during testing. And it's literally the check marks that you can see if a kid has answered questions. Especially if you were testing the little ones, if you were in an elementary school, before they click submit, you might want to just look at this screen right here and see if everything has a check mark. That's the only screen you're allowed to look at. You can't look at individual questions. So that's the magical screen you can look at. If this training is not sufficient for you and you would like a more extensive training, there are training courses available on Georgia Learns. There is a test examiner course, there is a accommodation course, and there's a school test coordinator course. If you would like to know all the information they know, there are 3 courses on Georgia Learns that you can participate in. The testing room. I know you don't really have anything to do with the testing room setup, but you're going to be the one in there. And so when you walk in, if they are facing each other, like the second half over here, you will have to have a classroom rearranged before you get started. Because kids can't be looking at each other when they're testing. They need to be looking at the back of somebody's head. They do not need to be facing each other. Do we all understand this? You've all been teachers. You know this. So make sure everybody is facing the front of the classroom or the back of the classroom. It don't matter which direction they're facing, as long as they're all going in the same direction. And you are not just plopped in a corner. You are actively monitoring them wherever they are.
Hey, Lindy, quick question.
Yes, sir.
Back to that arrangement. I've been in classrooms over the past that have that arrangement, but they have the boards up so they can only see the board. Is that
That's fine.
okay? Okay.
Mhm. If they have that. But those boards make it really hard to monitor what kids are doing. I'm not a huge fan of those boards because then they're sneaky behind them. But yes. You need to have some sort of clock in the classroom. A lot of kids don't know how to read a clock. So they've asked if they could use a digital clock that show the time. Perfect. They need a clock, pencil, scratch paper. All of these things that are listed are things that you should have in your testing environment. Scratch paper, calculators, if the school is doing that, we're encouraging Desmos calculators because nobody can mess that up. Testing do not disturb sign and no electronic sign, your test administration manual, you should know who you're testing, you should have test tickets for who you're testing. Every kid should have a device that's been used regularly, a mouse if needed, headset if you've got read aloud kits. This next part is you're testing the children. You're responsible for making sure they have the stuff. I know you're like, but I'm just walking in. What are you talking about? You've walked in, congratulations, you're the one in charge of that group. So you need to make sure if you've got a small group, you know what their accommodations are because you are officially the one testing it if you're the one in charge. So don't be afraid to ask questions. We're fine. We're not freaking out. We're asking questions. We're making sure everyone's on the same page. Calculator policy. There are some questions. Well, elementary school doesn't use a calculator unless you have an IEP that says you can use a calculator. So that should be the very rare exception for elementary school. In 6th through 8th and then algebra 1, there are some questions where a calculator is not used and it says no calculator. And Desmos, the online calculator, will not be given to you during that portion of the test. After they finish that, there's a screen that says, please raise your hand to get a calculator, in which the kids will raise the hand. And if the school is using handheld calculators, you should have been given an instruction sheet on how to clear that calculator, the memory from the calculator. Most schools are just using the online portion, in which the kids will continue to test online. If you are giving out calculators, you need to know how to clear the memory. You should have a handout on how to clear the memory. Okay. Scratch paper. Scratch paper is a tool that every child gets. Everybody gets scratch paper. You can have blank scratch paper, line scratch paper, 1/4 inch graph paper. You cannot, and this is a change, you cannot use the writer's checklist, a periodic table, or a formula sheet as scratch paper. Scratch paper must be blank paper. Blank paper. They can write on their testing ticket if that makes them happy, but no periodic table, formula sheet, or writer's checklist. All of that stuff is available in the DRC testing platform. But you have to be able to give your children scratch paper. I know in the world of computers, people just like to click and they don't believe in scratch paper. They need scratch paper. So how long am I going to be testing, Lindy? That's a great question. It depends on the content. It has your typical testing time and your maximum testing time. Go ahead and plan for the maximum testing time. Though you know little Johnny might finish in 7 minutes, you have to plan for 90 minutes on day 1. And super fun if you have extended time. You should know that. I did the math for the people who don't like to math. So if you get time and a half, it's 1.5 times the time, double time, it's twice as much.
Thanks to that city and try to meet the next in that stadium. If you could be there.
Okay, sorry, muted him. Item types, this doesn't really affect you, it's more for the teachers, but there's multiple select, drag and drop, constructed response, all the funness. How many questions are the students going to be testing? Lindy, great question. English total 51 questions for all 3 sections. Now that's broken up into 3 days for elementary school and 2 days for middle and high. 55 questions for math, 42 for science, and 42 for social studies. This is the elementary school schedule. I do not know where y'all are going to be. That is not part of Lindy's decision. So you could be elementary school and you just do 1 section a day. You could be in middle school in which they do 2 sections a day. Or you could be high school, which can do 2 sections a day. I believe Lori Taylor is the one in charge of assigning that, or she is coordinating it. And someone is going to tell you where you are and when you're supposed to be there. You can ask me, but there we go. There are more training resources and videos available if you would like them. My feelings will not be hurt if this is not sufficient training for you and you want to go to Godot's resources. There's webinars, Georgia Learned classes, and other handouts. One thing, we've talked about this, if you are someone who likes to go ahead and you make notes in your scripts, you can go ahead and print you a little TAM and have it with you. It is on Godot's public website. I can invite you to my testing Canvas class. I can email it to you, whatever makes you happy. But they are already available and you can print them and you can put your little sticky notes, flag, highlight, whatever. But we read it word for word. So as long as you can read and follow instructions, you can be an examiner because you all have a teaching certificate and a clearance certificate. There are practice test opportunities. If you would like to see what type of questions the students are going to answer, you can go to GeorgiaExperienceOnline.com and you can go through and see the type of questions your students will be answering. There is a monitoring code, which is new this year. After the students enter their username and password, it's going to ask for the monitoring code. When you pick up your materials at the beginning of the day, make sure you get a monitoring code or nothing is going to work. Your students will just stare at you and it's going to make everybody frustrated. So make sure you get your monitoring code. It is new every day. It's a new thing. When you get your test materials from your school, be like, what's my monitoring code? I told them to put it on neon pink paper, a bright piece of paper so you can't lose it. So you can put it up on the wall for everybody to know what the monitoring code is. It's going to be after the user and enter your username and password. Now, we have instructed every school to do a practice test. In case you are not aware of how Georgia Milestones works, the students will restart their Chromebook. They start from scratch. They don't even enter their own username and password. It is like blank. They open it up. There's an apps button. They click apps and then DRC. From DRC, they'll either go to end of grade or end of course. If their username and password is not working, they are not in the right test platform because they look exactly the same. It's not like end of grade is purple and end of course is blue. They all look the same. So if little Johnny's password is not working and you've watched him put it in 3 times, have him go back out and start over and make sure they click the right test. Accommodations. If someone's going to get in trouble with testing, it is probably because of accommodations. If you have small group testing, please make sure you are aware of accommodations. Accommodations are based on IEPs, 504s, and ESOL students. Who's responsible for knowing the accommodations? All the adults who are around the children. That's who's responsible. And if you're in that classroom, that makes you responsible. Not every accommodation under the sun is allowable for state testing. there's a list of allowable accommodations. If you're testing a student, you need to know what the accommodations are. Here's an example accommodation sheet that some schools are using, in which it lists all the possible accommodations and they're highlighted for whatever your student may have. Some schools are doing a checklist that has the 6 kids in the classroom and what accommodations they have.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
Lindy, okay, so in the horrible situation that we have to actually go in and test these students, right?
Mhm.
And we happen to get 504s or IEP students, are we going to expect a list of all the names and the accommodations page from their IEP? If we do not have that, we need to say, I will not test until I see this.
I need a list of accommodations for these kids. Like
Gotcha.
they might have their own list. It might not be page 7 of the IEP. They might just have all of them listed
Right.
in that one testing room. But if you have small group, you need to say, I need to know the accommodations per kid,
Gotcha.
because not all kids in the room might have the same accommodation. Like they might not, it could be different. And that's okay. Like text to speech, because they're going to have headphones. You can put 3 text to speech and 4 non-text to speech in the same group. And that's fine. Universal tools. Everyone has some tools available to them. Calculator, cross off, graphing, help feature, highlighter, magnifier. All these things are available to every student. Encourage them to use them. They can flag questions for later. All of these things are items they should have practiced when they did the Georgia Online Experience or they did their secure practice test at school. Online video sign language. If you have students who require online video sign language, a little woman's going to pop up, or man, I don't know, and they're going to sign the questions. Don't freak out. It is what it is. If they have a little video, they're supposed to have it. Text to speech. Test tickets. When you talked about reviewing accommodations, text to speech will show up on the test ticket. Text to speech will show up on the test ticket. Next to the word accommodations, it'll have TTS, text to speech. That is the one accommodation we cannot add once a kid has logged in. So once they enter their username and password, we can change it. Text to speech. If little Johnny is supposed to be read to and it's not on the ticket, congratulations. Angie now gets to read one-on-one to that student. You don't want to do that. I promise. You don't want to do it. So when you get your little accommodation sheet, because you have a small group, if it says Johnny, read aloud or text to speech, check his ticket and make sure next to accommodation it says text to speech. Are there questions? Because you think you're mad about testing right now. If you have to sit there and read the whole English test, you're going to be cussing me up one side and down the other. Okay? Double check the text to speech, because you cannot, once they've logged in, you're done. You will have to, that turns into an individual administration, because you got to read out loud. Are there any questions? I know this is exhilarating content for you. Okay, I know Shauna's paying attention because she has asked questions and participated, but there are 25 others of you on this call.
Lindy, it's Angie. I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
in the past, district personnel main job was to be there to provide extra support in the school outside of the testing environment. I understand we're being trained to test and if we're needed, I got that. But my question is it the expectation at the school level that they're using their certified personnel unless they don't have enough in the test room?
Yes, in elementary, you've got kindergarten, first and second, in which they are certified. And so you would more than likely go into a kindergarten, first or second classroom to free up their teacher to test. If you are asked to go into a middle school, every single kid in that school is testing. And so if you're in a middle school, you're probably going to be testing.
Okay.
Because it's not like you're going to go into the GAA classroom because they're still GAA testing. So if you are asked to go to an elementary school, you're probably going to be more of the not testing, you're freeing someone up. But if you're going into a middle school specifically, you're probably going to be testing. So just go ahead and be prepared for that. You might be the proctor in the room and not the examiner, but you're probably actually going to be in a testing room. Same thing with high school.
Got it. Thank you.
And Lindy, let me jump in. That's our preference. Our preference would be that you're the proctor, not the examiner. I will say though, for those of you that are assigned to Baker, there is a possibility that you probably will end up testing just because of so many vacancies. But our preference always is for you to be a proctor. We want to go as far away from examiner as we can.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I just have one more question, Patrick.
Yeah. So,
Okay, so some of us got our assignment today. Should we be expecting more schools other than just the one that we got?
Well, you should always be expecting more schools.
Okay, so
No,
Lori,
I don't.
look, I'm ready.
That's what I was
I'm
answering.
ready.
I'm teasing you. That's what I was answering Angie J. At this
Okay.
point, that's what we expect. But again, everyone's on deck just in case something comes up, and stuff always comes up. But as of
Yeah.
right now, I don't anticipate there being more additions. And obviously, we have been very conservative in the amount we've given to schools. We've reached back out to them. We've suggested they add afternoon sessions because ideally we want them to be able to be self-sufficient as much as possible. So just because that's good for them, you know, to have their own capacity in-house so they can be a little more nimble. So with that said, yeah, it's possible that additional days may get added. But I think if that happens or something comes up and we know that, I mean, we'll probably work together to see who's best poised to respond to it. So I don't want to say absolutely not, you know, it's possible, but at this point, we haven't really gotten any more requests and we're kind of settled.
Okay, thanks, Patrick.
But it could, again, Sean, there's absolutely, as you well know, as a former test coordinator, I mean, all hell could break loose on Tuesday somewhere, which means we may have to pivot and bring in new people or whatever. So I'm asking for you guys to kind of be patient with us and be flexible just because, you know, we've had lots of vacancies across the district, which has put us in this situation we're in now where we really seem to need more people to go out than we ever have. So anyways, I appreciate you guys being willing to do it. So.
I put the sign in back up on the screen. When this ends, I'm going to upload this into YouTube and send it back out to the same people I sent the original email to. And I'm going to attach, there's one more form for you to fill out, and it's the roles and responsibilities. And you're going to put your name, date, sign it, and you're going to send it. You can email it to me. That's fine. It's just, you're going to follow the rules and you know what the rules are. And it's just very like lays them out black and white. If you're at a school, your school-based personnel might request it also, but this way I'll also have it on file. You can print it and bring it back to me. You're all in my building. You can stick it in the pony. If you're not in my building, you can scan and email it, whatever will make you happy. It does not matter to me. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, you can stay on. We can answer them. It'll be great.
Nice job, Lindy.
Thanks.
Lindy,
Yes, ma'am.
I did have a quick question. What is going to be the plan for all of these new kids that are showing up during testing?
Great. If they enroll, they get added to the testing list.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, it's. Any other questions?
Are we putting down other on our location?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. You good, James? Do you have any questions for me?
No questions at all.
Okay.
That was a girl.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It was a girl.
There was a girl?
Yeah, the slide you said that you hit the translator or whatever.
It was a girl,
If
but I don't know if
it's a
she
guy
did
or a
all
girl.
of them.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about that slide.
No, I just didn't know if she did all of them or if there's a separate one. I haven't
Gotcha.
seen any of it.
Yeah, I think she had red hair.
And wore all black because that's what translators do,
That's right.
interpreters do.
But other than that, yeah, awesome. Thank you.
Okay, thank y'all.